नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं अजीत बहादुर आपका सोलर इज़ माई पैशन के इन्फॉर्मेटिव सेशन में आप सबका स्वागत करता हूं और आशा करता हूं कि आप लोग स्वस्थ होंगे। तो दोस्तों, जैसा कि हम सब एक बड़े वीकेंड के बाद मिल रहे हैं, दैट इज़ हमने दशहरा से फिर दिवाली आई, दिवाली से फिर छठ पूजा आई, छठ पूजा के बाद अब हम इस हफ्ते मिल रहे हैं। और ये जो प्रोग्राम होता है हम हर संडे को करते हैं, जहाँ पे हम हर हफ्ते कुछ न कुछ नया टॉपिक लेके आते हैं जो कि आप लोगों के काम की होती है। इनफैक्ट हम यहाँ पे पॉलिसी प्रोसेस गाइडलाइंस, क्या नया हो रहा है, क्या नया आने वाला है, ये साथ में कई इन्फॉर्मेटिव सेशन जो आप लोगों को डिमांड करते हैं वही हम लाते हैं। जैसा कि आप सबको भी मालूम होगा कि भाई आज का जो सेशन है वो है डीजी पीवी सिंक। तो डीजी आप सबको ही मालूम है कि भाई डीजल जेनसेट, और पीवी आप वो फोटोवोल्टेक हो गया। अब इन दोनों सिस्टम्स को कैसे सिंक्रोनाइज करके हम अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट या हम अपने कस्टमर की रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफ़िल कर सकते हैं, यही आज हम जानने वाले हैं। आज हमारे साथ जो एक्सपर्ट हैं वो उनका ऑलमोस्ट 6 गीगावाट का एक्सपीरियंस है, उनके साथ भी हम आपको रूबरू कराएंगे। बट उससे पहले मैं आपको बता दूं कि भाई हम लोगों का जो ट्रेनिंग सेशन होता है वो हाइब्रिड ट्रेनिंग हम 21 नवंबर से स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं। तो जो लोग भी आप हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं और जो लोग अपना करियर, या भले ही वो जॉब हो या बिज़नेस हो, वो यहाँ पे बनाना चाहते हैं सोलर इंडस्ट्री में, उन सबसे से तो गुजारिश है कि भाई अगर इफ़ पॉसिबल यू कैन जॉइन दिस हाइब्रिड ट्रेनिंग सेशन। हाइब्रिड इसलिए रखा गया है कि भाई कुछ चीज़ें होती हैं जो हम ऑनलाइन आपको सिखा सकते हैं, जैसे पॉलिसी प्रोसेस गाइडलाइंस, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, साइजिंग, डिज़ाइनिंग, ये चीज़ें कैसे की जाती हैं वो चीज़ें हम आपको ऑनलाइन सिखाएंगे। और कुछ चीज़ें जो कि प्रैक्टिकल में आपको लुक एंड फील आना चाहिए, खुद आके आप लगा लें। हाँ, खुद आप फैक्ट्री विज़िट करें, मेगावाट की साइट विज़िट करें, 400 मेगावाट की फैक्ट्री विज़िट करें, फिर ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन के बारे में जानें, फिर वहीं पे ऑन ग्रिड, ऑफ ग्रिड और हाइब्रिड सिस्टम्स का इंस्टॉलेशन खुद अपने हाथ से करें। साथ ही में अलग अलग जो प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं सोलर के, वो एक साथ आप कम से कम देखें तो सही, सो दैट कल को आपको, अगर जब आप सोलर इंडस्ट्री में अपना करियर बनाएं, तो आपको पता रहने चाहिए कि भाई क्या होता है और कैसे होता है। आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं आपसे यही जानना चाहूँगा कि भाई क्या आपको हमारी आवाज़ आ रही है या नहीं, ऑडियो वीडियो क्लियर। जितने भी दोस्त हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं उन सबसे गुजारिश है कि भाई वो ज़रा अपने चैट बॉक्स में लिख दें कि भाई क्या आपको हमारी आवाज़ आ रही है या नहीं। ऑडियो वीडियो क्लियर, ज़रा हमें ये लिख दें। पवन अग्रवाल सर, अरे गुड मॉर्निंग सर, गुड मॉर्निंग है, यस आ रही है। पवन अग्रवाल सर, आज का जो सेशन रहेगा वो थोड़ा सा बहुत ही इंटरेस्टेड है, क्योंकि इंटरेस्टिंग है। क्या है कि भाई हमारे एक्सपर्ट बहुत ही अच्छे हैं और उनका इस फील्ड में बहुत तगड़ा तजुर्बा है। और वही चलिए, प्रशांत शाह कितने बजे स्टार्ट होगा? तो इट्स नॉट कितने बजे सर, ये 21 तारीख को स्टार्ट होगा। जैसा आप स्क्रीन पे देख रहे हैं, हमारी टीम का नंबर दिया हुआ है 7775307296 और हमारा जो ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट है दैट इज़ www.igrowgreen.info। igrowgreen.info पे जाके आप इस ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के बारे में पूरी जानकारी ले सकते हैं। तो चलिए, आज के हम जो हमारे मेहमान हैं उनका आपको इंट्रोडक्शन करा देते हैं। ही शिवा कुमार। शिवा सर,
Hi sir, good morning. This is
sir,
Shiva
your
speaking.
camera, sir, can you? Ha. Shiva sir, first of
Yeah,
all, thank you that you took some time and finally you are on our channel to share
yeah,
some more information on DGPV sync, because these days, मतलब कि in India, the thing is, मतलब कि everyone is talking about PM Surya Ghar Yojana, and for CNI segments, all the CNI customers, I think most of the CNI customers are already having DG. Then the big question comes, see, कि can we synchronize DG with PV?
yeah.
So this is the topic for you, sir. हाँ. एंड
Uh,
फ्रेंड्स, लेट मी टेल यू वन मोर थिंग, दैट ये वाला जो सेशन रहेगा वो 99% वो इंग्लिश में रहेगा। क्या है कि भाई शिवा सर का इंग्लिश तगड़ा है, लेकिन हिंदी थोड़ा सा कमज़ोर है तो वो पूरा सेशन इंग्लिश में लेंगे, बट मैं अपनी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश करूँगा कि भाई उसे तुरंत के तुरंत ट्रांसलेट करूँ। एक एक सब्जेक्ट, एक एक लाइन तो नहीं कर पाऊँगा मैं ट्रांसलेट, लेकिन जो मेजर पॉइंट्स हैं वो ज़रूर मैं आपको ट्रांसलेट करके दे दूँगा।
Correct.
तो आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई बने रहें। और जहाँ तक मैं आपको एक और चीज़ बता दूँ भाई, शिवा सर का अगर क्वालिफिकेशन देखा जाए तो ही हैज़ डन मास्टर्स इन सोलर फ्रॉम सर सिडनी ना सर,
Sweden.
स्वीडन,
Sweden.
हाँ स्वीडन है। और वो इंडिया में भी काम कर चुके हैं। आप में से कोई बता सकता है कि भाई किसी ने ईवो का नाम सुना है? EVVO, ईवो। जितने भी दोस्त हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, रियाज मलिक साहब, पवन अग्रवाल सर, प्रदीप सेल के सर, बिजनेस मशीन, क्या आपने कभी ईवो का नाम सुना है? EVVO, ईवो, हाँ, चेन्नई की कंपनी है। और यस, तो पवन, यस है। तो शिवा कुमार सर ईवो के CTO भी रह चुके हैं, एंड ही इज़ हैविंग बहुत तगड़ा एक्सपीरियंस। इंडिया में उन्होंने काम किया हुआ है, मिडिल ईस्ट में काम किया हुआ है, और आज की डेट में वो यूरोपियन कंट्रीज़ के साथ भी काम कर रहे हैं। और ये अब हम ऐसा कह सकते हैं कि नाउ ही हैज़ शिफ्टेड फ्रॉम किलोवाट टू मेगावाट नाउ मेगावाट फ्रॉम मेगावाट टू गीगावाट्स ऑल्सो। तो शिवा कुमार सर, वेलकम टू सोलर इज माई पैशन।
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the nice introduction. Yes. Thank you all for attending the session. I assure you that it'll be a very informative session, and I'll take it as lenient as possible so that even a layman can understand this topic. I understand there are also experts sitting on the other side listening to this seminar, but there can also be some people who are very new to the field. So I'll just take it as a balance between the experienced guy and the new guy.
ओके,
Okay,
चलिए तो एक और
let's
बार
get into the session.
सर, कैन यू, आपको शिवा सर की आवाज़ आ रही है? तो शिवा ऑडियो, मतलब शिवा ऑडियो वीडियो क्लियर, और सर को मतलब
Yeah,
प्रेजेंटेशन स्टार्ट कर दें।
yeah, that's
आप बस चैट बॉक्स में लिख दीजिए शिवा ऑडियो वीडियो क्लियर।
yeah, that's good to know. Yes,
यस, क्लियर,
just let me know
चलिए,
if my
ओके,
audio
यस,
and video is clear.
बोथ आर क्लियर सर।
Clear? We are clear?
यस,
Okay.
क्लियर। फ्रेंड्स,
All
आपसे
right.
रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई पहले आप समझ लीजिए DGPV सिंक होता क्या है, फिर उसके बाद हम लोग बीच बीच में भी रुक के आपसे क्वेश्चंस पूछेंगे। शिवा सर, व्हाट वी विल डू इज, मतलब कि वी विल शेयर 4-5 स्लाइड्स एंड देन वी विल वेट, आस्क द क्वेश्चन, देन वी विल प्रोसीड।
Sure.
ओवर
Yes.
टू यू सर।
Perfect. Whatever you say, sir. So I hope
हाँ,
most of them here understand the topic. Why a DGPV sync and what
या
is a DGPV sync?
सर,
And what I will
प्रेजेंटेशन।
yeah, let's get into the presentation.
फ्रेंड्स, मैं एक, जब तक प्रेजेंटेशन आता है तब तक मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहूँगा कि आप में से किस किस ने DGPV सिंक के ऊपर काम कर रखा है? लेट्स हम ये भी पूछ लेते हैं। संदीप पवार जी, गिरीश जी, वासिम नायक है। हैव यू एवर वर्कड ऑन DGPV सिंक, या ये कॉन्सेप्ट पहली बार आप सुन रहे हैं? किसी ने काम किया हुआ है DGPV सिंक के ऊपर? चलिए, हमने
I
प्रेजेंटेशन
think
भी
it
हटा दिया।
nowadays most of the industry people are are somehow forced into this thing, DGPV sync somewhere. At least one out
रियाज
of their
मलिक,
10
रियाज
projects.
मलिक, यस, दे हैव डन, गिरीश
Yeah,
ऑल्सो हैज
see,
डन।
yes, they've done it.
हाँ, ओके
I
सर,
know,
ओवर टू यू।
yeah,
लेट्स प्रोसीड।
I know for definitely it has happened. Okay, so good to have you all, and let's start the session. The session is called Solar DG Synchronization. Most of the time it has been confused with DG synchronization, which is an entirely different topic. This is a solar plant or a solar inverter, how it is getting synchronized to the DG, which is standing in a campus. Yes. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, there's a duckling. Yes. The reason why this picture is here is because This reminded me when Ajit sir was asking me about the solar DG synchronization topic. The very first DG synchronization that happened in India, I would say, I was also a part of it, which we installed, was on a hatchery. It was in Haryana, and there was a solar plant of 1 megawatt, and it was a hatchery. And that is where the installation happened. That's where we installed our first DG synchronization system. And to remind it, I have it here. And along with this, I'll tell you where and why. So why a PV has to be synchronized with DG? Most of the times you install a solar power plant in somebody's campus, and the customer has an expectation that the solar plant is going to fulfill most of his energy needs. But what happens if there is a power cut? When there is a power cut, the plant is not going to work, and he will have to run his DG, and he will always have a question, then why did I install a solar plant in the first case? So in order to balance this, we do solar and DG synchronization, which in detail I'm going to explain you. So the topic is more about the game or the handshake that happens between our solar inverter. We are not going to talk anything about the solar panel or the cables coming out of the panel, the structure. No, any component on the DC side will not be discussed because that's not important in this topic. So we'll mostly be discussing about the solar inverter and the DG and how they play this game together. To understand this DG synchronization, initially we will have to understand the character of a solar inverter. Most of us know that the main character of the solar inverter is to convert the DC power from the solar panels into a usable AC power. But apart from that, there are also some characters in the inverter which we will have to understand first before we get into the topic and understand the technicalities. Understanding the inverter is told to be the brain of the solar plant. The solar panels are told to be the heart because they are also important, but the inverter is the brain of a solar plant, and it is very important. It is very important. And the solar inverter is very smart. You know how smart the inverter is, right? When there is an error, it gives you the error. When the generation has happened, it can always push you email notifications telling today so much was your generation. When it gets heated, it can cool itself by turning on its fans, and it keeps working 24/7 by understanding the grid and the nature of the grid and whatever commands you give it. So the inverter is a very intelligent guy, and this point, please make a note of it. The inverter is the intelligent person in this system, which we are going to discuss. The next character, apart from what the inverter is doing, the inverter converts the power. Okay, all that is fine, but this is the important character of the inverter, which we have to understand. It is anti-islanding. Anti-islanding is simply when there is power in the grid, the on-grid inverter just starts working, and then it takes a reference voltage from the grid and starts working, and then pushes power to the load, and the excess power is fed into the grid. This happens as a happy family when there is power sitting in the grid. But what happens if there is no power? So if you see this slide, the grid has power. The grid has reference voltage, so the inverter is working. And when there is no power in the grid, which is quite normal in our situations in most of the countries, in India mainly, we have load shedding. That can be of various different reasons, like there can be a maintenance that is happening, or there can be some component failure which has happened. So it just created a situation where there is no power in the grid. At that point of time, within 0.2 seconds, the inverter just goes on a sleep mode or a standby, you can say. So the inverter will not generate any power, but it will keep checking the grid if the reference voltage is available or not available. Until then, the inverter just stays calm and it is not going to work at all. So this performance or this character of the inverter is called anti-islanding. And unfortunately or fortunately, why I say fortunately is because Imagine if there's no power in the grid, and if the inverter is working normally and pushing the excess power into the grid, it is going to electrocute the person who is going to be working in the grid. So we don't want the inverter to do this, and that's why the inverter comes with this feature called an anti-islanding, and this feature is very important for our discussion. So here it is. Next, the second player in the game, the DG, is simply a worker, I would say. He is not very intelligent. DG is not as intelligent as the solar inverter because the inverter does many different works. It's smart, but the DG is simply a worker. You can say it just does its job when there is no power cut. So when there is no power cut, you call this worker, turn him on, give him whatever he needs, and then he is going to supply power for all your appliances. This is simply what the DG is going to do. Other than that, the DG has nothing to do with any sort of smart things. So let's see how we are going to make this game possible between a smart guy as the solar inverter and to play with the dumb guy who is the DG. The third person in this is the load, which is the boss. So we understood what a solar inverter is capable of, and we also understood what a DG is capable of, which is basically supplying power during power cuts. And what the load is requiring is always power. You just have to keep feeding this grumpy boss with power, because when the appliance is on, it just needs its power to satisfy itself. If a 1 ton AC is running, that 1 ton AC, let's say approximately a 1 kilowatt of power, which is required by a 1 ton AC, is always required by the AC, irrespective of whatever situation it is. Whether it comes from the solar, whether it comes from the grid, whether it comes from the DG, but this appliances or these appliances for that matter, all will require power, and they will not have any manipulating of, okay, now the solar is working, so let me consume more, or the DG is working, so let me consume. This factor of power that it needs. Okay, so am I audible to you?
यस
Can I
यस
have
यस
some?
यस 100%
Yeah,
ऑडिबल. फ्रेंड्स, आपको यहाँ तक तो क्लियर हुआ कि नहीं हुआ? चलिए, लेट्स हैव ए ब्रेक फॉर 2 मिनट्स. हाँ, वसीम,
yeah. I think
रियाज मलिक, कमल खन्ना, कन्नन जी, गिरीश, यहाँ तक तो
yeah.
जो अभी सर ने हमें बताया वो आपको क्लियर हुआ या नहीं? अभी तक हमने पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट का अभी जस्ट स्टार्टिंग किया है. अभी हमने पता लगा कि भाई यस, डीजी इन्वर्टर क्या है, इन्वर्टर और डीजी क्या है, और उसके साथ में उसकी कहानी कैसे कहाँ तक है. तो वसीम यस है, नेचर लवर यस है, परफेक्ट.
Yeah,
रियाज
perfect.
मलिक
Okay,
हाँ,
good,
ओके
good.
परफेक्ट हाँ. ओके सर, ओवर टू यू.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I just had a small glitch, so I thought I'll just give a small break to understand if my voice is clear and if you can understand
यस सर हाँ.
the screen also. Okay, so now we were talking about the anti-islanding feature where the inverter needs power. So why don't we fool the inverter by using a DG? A simple concept that anybody with a little common sense can think of. Why not simply fool the inverter by just turning on the DG? So the inverter thinks, oh, there is reference voltage, which means there is grid available, and then the inverter starts working. So the concept starts here. There are some issues if we are going to do that. Issue number one, I have just squeezed it to only 2 issues. Issue number one, does this image look very familiar to you? Yes, I guess, because most of us see this on our speedometer in the car, in our motorcycles. It has a green, it has an orange, and it has a red. One to indicate, okay, how speed you're going and don't speed too much. Okay, that apart. But it also indicates in this speed, you are economical. So if you are driving at 60 or below 60, 40, then you are driving at an economical speed is something which this meter indicates. By which, what I'm trying to tell you is the DG requires a minimum load. You cannot oversize the DG. Example, take a DG of 100 kVA, and you cannot oversize or you cannot size the DG to its maximum. Then the DG is not going to be very efficient. Nor you cannot undersize the DG also. Like you cannot go for 100. You cannot run 100 kVA DG for just a 2 kilowatt load. Come on, that's not going to be a viable solution or an economical solution, I would say. So the DG always needs a economical load or a minimum load, it's called normally in terms. And generally, if you talk to many DG manufacturers out there, they're going to tell you at least a 30% of load has to be there for a DG for it to run at its economical rate. What happens if there is not 30% of load? Then the DG will consume more diesel. The DG consumption of diesel is going to be more, which means the DG is not going to be efficient. For 1 liter of diesel you pour into it, it will not give you the said units as electrical units. So you will always have to satisfy the DG with its minimum load. Issue number 1. Issue number 2 comes with our inverter. When we are going to fool the inverter by turning on the DG, and the inverter thinks, oh, there is grid available, and it takes it as a reference and starts working. But when the load is satisfied, then the inverter also has a character to feed in the power to the grid. And in this case, it's going to be the DG who cannot take the feed in power. So these two issues are very important when we think of fooling the inverter by using a DG, or in other words, when we think of DG synchronization. So we employ the third person in this small circuit, which is the DG synchronizing device. And I call him the referee because this DG synchronizing device has to be a mediator between the load, the DG, and the solar inverter to make this game work properly. For all three of them to work at their pace, you need the referee, which is called the DG synchronizing device, which is, of course, another device which is going to be introduced, which I'll be explaining you clearly. And is there anything you want me to do? Is the presentation going well? Let me
यस
know
सर.
if I have to change my pace or
एक और बार पूछ लेते हैं फ्रेंड्स.
yeah.
प्रेजेंटेशन आप लोगों को समझ आ रहा है? क्योंकि हाँ, बहुत अच्छे अच्छे कमेंट्स हैं सर. मैं
Oh,
कलेक्शन
thank
वेरी
you.
नाइस प्रेजेंटेशन सर है, नाइस एक्सप्लेनेशन, परफेक्ट. और
Okay.
किसी को कुछ कम ज़्यादा करना है? हाँ, इनफैक्ट आपसे
Anything you
रिक्वेस्ट है कि
want
भाई.
me to stress on or anything you
हाँ
want me to explain a little bit in detail, you can ask me, or we can also wait for the end of the session and then we can take it up.
सर, वसीम नायक है said it's perfect sir, this is good. Over to you
Perfect.
sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's start it. Okay, now over to the referee. The referee will be introduced soon to the game. This is what we call the PVDG synchronizing device. Basically, these are the two main components which we will need for a PVDG synchronization, apart from the PV plant and the DG, of course. So one is the programmable logic controller. This controller sitting here has a small processor. You don't have to worry too much of the technicals of this component because nowadays it is readily available in the market. All you have to do is purchase one of them and feed the Modbus in language, because the inverter talks a certain language which is called Modbus. And for each inverter manufacturer the Modbus is different. So SMA has a different Modbus, Fronius has a different Modbus. For that matter, the Chinese inverters, Sungrow and other inverters have different Modbus. So when you purchase this device, you may have to tell this manufacturer that we are buying this device for the sake of this inverter. So you just have to tell them that, and then they will just pick the Modbus of that particular inverter and put it in. That's very important. So this device is readily available in the market as PVDG synchronizing device, and it is nothing but a programmable logic controller. So if the cost of it should not be very much. I don't want to talk on the cost part, but I'm just explaining why, because it's just a PLC and you don't spend too much money on that device. It should be a normal economical cost. The second thing is the energy meter. It's a normal energy meter again. Okay, here you have to recollect one point which I was talking about. The DG is not a smart device. The inverter talks, it has a language, it has means of communication, but the DG cannot talk. So you have to install an energy meter on the output of the DG. Here can be a question, okay, how do I install it? Because when I go to the customer's place inside his campus, most of the time the DG is already sitting there for some years, and then I go with an energy meter, and how do I install it? You can simply employ a CT meter and go with a split CT. So you don't even have to remove the DG cable to put the CT in. You get those split CTs. I'm just giving some advices because it makes your life easy when you go install this energy meter there. So you don't have to disturb all those existing wirings. That's what I mean. You just go with a CT, a split CT is fine, and then take a reference voltage from the DG itself, and then install this meter next to the DG. Very important, the meter has to be a smart meter. By smart, I mean the meter also should communicate. The meter also should have a Modbus communication possible, RS485 communication possible, which will then be connected to our DG synchronization device. So this way, we can make our diesel generator, which is the dumb guy, become a smart guy, because you just give this energy meter to him and then he becomes smart and he starts communicating with your device. And that's how the circuit, my friends, are going to be. Note two things here. The black arrow mark, which is coming out of the DG, is a power. It's power, which is being shown as a black arrow. And the dotted arrows, which are shown between the energy meter and the PLC device, which is the DG synchronizing device, basically is communication cable. So this is not power cable. This is communication cable. So what happens is, as I was explaining, to the DG, you install the energy meter on its output, and then take the RS485 cable, which is basically a 2-core cable, or we also use Cat6 cable for that matter. And it is normally advisable not to run this Cat6 cable for more than 100 meters. It depends on how you install it, where you install it. Are you installing it underground? Are you installing it outdoor? All these matters for the cable. So try not to run it too long. Otherwise, you will lose data or communication, because it's just a 5-volt communication. So the dotted lines are showing communication cables, and the dark black arrow shows the power. So this is how they have to be connected. I'm not going to explain very much detail of how the connections are going to happen and all those things, because for every inverter, it is different. And every inverter has its RS485 port. So you basically have to connect this DG synchronizing device onto the inverter. That's it. It's as simple as that. And if there is any special case, I can imagine one special case where there are some inverters which may not have this port readily on them. Or you can imagine a place where there are multiple inverters. Then how do you do it? So you basically do a daisy chain and then connect it to the last inverter or the first inverter for that matter. Or inverters can also have a data logger which is connected to 40 inverters, for example. One data logger connected to 40 inverters, one data logger for up to 10 inverters. So you just directly connect it to that data logger. I'm just giving different scenarios of the products available in the market. Then what happens is this: the energy meter sitting here is going to record how much is going to be the output of the DG. So it just keeps recording the output of the DG, and it feeds power into, it just gives that data to the DG synchronizing device. and the DG synchronizing device will take care of the balance between the inverter and the DG. So here I'm going to explain you a scenario, because if I don't put a scenario here, this is going to be a very complicated thing. Imagine there is a load of 100 kilowatt. There is a load of 100 kilowatt, and there is a DG of 100 kVA sitting inside the campus, and you have installed 100 kilowatt solar plant for that matter. There is a 100 kilowatt solar plant, there is a 100 kilowatt load, and there is 100 kVA of DG, and there is power cut, and time of the day is 12 o'clock noon. So which means the sun is shining bright on the solar plant and there is power cut. Now, what happens is the solar plant, let's say, is going to produce its maximum. So assume the solar plant is going to give 80% of it. So almost somewhere around 75 to 80 kilowatt is being pushed by the solar inverter into the load. And this poor DG guy sitting there will just run for the remaining 20 kilowatt. This is all theoretical. Huh? Practically, this situation cannot happen, because anybody who owns a 100 kVA DG is not going to load it with 100 kilowatt of load. But I'm just explaining it for a simple explanation. So this DG will turn on, and the DG will take care of only the 20 kilowatt load, by which the DG is going to consume a lot of diesel, and the maintenance is also going to be high if the DG runs this way. So you need at least 30% of load to be taken care by the DG first, and only the remaining load should be taken care by the solar inverter, right? So the power cut happens. First, the DG will start, or somebody goes there and he pushes the green button on the DG and the DG starts. The DG starts and it will slowly start pumping its power into the load. And this energy meter sitting there will record how much power is being pumped. The moment the DG touches its 30%, we would have already fed information to the DG sync controller there, telling, okay, the moment the DG touches its 30%, you please turn on the inverter. Again, coming to the initial slide, I told you the inverter is smart, so you can actually tell the inverter when to start and how much to produce and when to stop. So that's what this device is going to do. It will give information to the inverter telling, yes, you can start now and start producing power, provided 30% is already satisfied. So the inverter will slowly ramp up its power because the sun is shining bright, and it will start producing. And at one point, this inverter will produce so much power that the inverter is going to go low on its generation, the production. At that point, the device sitting here will bring down the MPPT range of the inverter little bit low, and the inverter will be ramped down on its power. So the DG synchronization device, the moment it understands the inverter is producing more power than actually required, it will ramp down the power of the inverter. And how it does it is simply by altering the maximum power point tracker of the inverter. It will just pull down the maximum power point, and then there it is. The inverter will reduce its power performance. So the inverter is going to supply only 70 kilowatt. The DG is going to take care of the remaining 30 kilowatt, and this circuit is going to work perfectly without any problem. This is basically the concept. This is how the DG synchronization works. Okay, there can be also conditions, right? Like we were talking about why should we employ a DG synchronization and how it should be done, but where not to do DG synchronization. This is rather advice, I would say. If you go to a campus and you find a DG which has been sitting there for, I have been to many campuses and I have seen DGs which were there for 20 years or so. And in this case, my personal advice or my personal opinion is, do not go for DG synchronization, even if the customer is expecting it. Why? Because these older DGs, when they run at 30% load, or if they run at full load, they are going to consume the same diesel. They will consume the same diesel. So you might as well run the DG and satisfy all the loads. Why synchronize a PV when there is no saving on the diesel? So when the diesel generator is old, the advice is not to go install a DG sync or make the customer spend extra, and then he will say, my DG was already taking so many liters and it is still doing the same, and why did I now waste so much money installing this device? Please explain. If this question is going to be short on you, there will be no answers. So take this advice seriously, and let's not install a DG synchronization if the DG is too old. Secondly, understand the site. When you go on a site visit, and if this is what is a question to you, oh, I have a lot of power cuts, so can you employ this DG synchronization in my campus? Understand at which part of the day the power cut is happening. So if there is power cut during the evening times or early mornings or in the night time, naturally, I mean, this can be a very foolish uh, thing, but there are situations which has led this issue. So we should tell the customer the PV DG synchronization is something which makes the PV plant work even when there is no grid. It is not something which makes the PV plant work when there is no sun. So basically, if the power cuts are happening in the evening or in the night, you run the DG, and this synchronizing device sitting there cannot do anything. It cannot pull any power out of the inverter. Sorry. So this is something which you have to explain the customer, like how we were new to this topic. The customers are also new to the topic, so they might be expecting something else. They think it's a battery solution. This is going to do something when there is power cut and all those. So when there is no sun, PVDG sync has no work to do.
सर लेट्स टेक सम क्वेश्चंस आल्सो सर, है ना?
Sure, sir.
ओके,
Yeah,
तो फ्रेंड्स
yeah.
यहाँ पे आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई आप अपने क्वेश्चंस पुट अप कर दें और हम एक एक करके वो उन सब क्वेश्चंस को ले लेंगे। जब तक आपके क्वेश्चंस आते हैं तब तक हम आपको ये बताना चाहेंगे कि भाई ऐसे ही और ऐसे और भी जो इंफॉर्मेटिव टॉपिक्स होते हैं, इनफैक्ट टीओडी क्या होता है, बिल एनालिसिस कैसे किया जाता है, वेंडर रजिस्ट्रेशन कैसे करते हैं, डीसीआर सर्टिफिकेट कैसे बनाया जनरेट किया जाता है, इनफैक्ट नेशनल पोर्टल पे कैसे प्रोसीजर किया जाता है, ये तमाम चीज़ें हम अपने हाइब्रिड ट्रेनिंग में लेते हैं। तो जैसे अभी शिवा सर हैं, ऐसे हमारे और भी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं जो हमारे इस ट्रेनिंग सेशन में आके आपको प्रॉपर सिखाते हैं कि भाई क्या होता है, कैसे होता है, क्यों होता है, कब होता है। तो आप में से जो लोग भी अपना करियर इस इंडस्ट्री में बनाना चाहते हैं वो हमारी इस ट्रेनिंग सेशन का फ़ायदा ज़रूर उठाएं। 21 नवंबर से वो स्टार्ट हो रहा है। फ़ोन नंबर आपके स्क्रीन पे आ रहा है, आप हमारी टीम से कोऑर्डिनेट कर सकते हैं। और ये तमाम इन्फॉर्मेशन आपको हमारी ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट www.igrowgreen.info पे भी मिल जाएगी। आप अपने खुद के स्टाफ को भी यहाँ पे ज्वाइन करवा सकते हैं। क्या है कि भाई आप लोगों को भी अच्छे स्टाफ की ज़रूरत है, वेल ट्रेंड स्टाफ की ज़रूरत है, तो आप इस चीज़ का फ़ायदा ज़रूर उठाइएगा। चलिए एक एक करके क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं सर। सर वी विल टेक सम क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम फर्स्ट फ्रॉम गिरीश अनंथन। नाम अगर मैं किसी का गलत स्पेल करूं तो उसके लिए माफ़ कर दीजिएगा, लेकिन गिरीश अनंतन, it's advisable is it as advisable to have a smaller DG for sync and start the bigger DG only when solar cannot feed the load? Can we
Yeah,
have two
I
DG?
think yes. This question I have answers in my second part of the presentation, so I can explain it there.
Okay,
Or
no issues,
if
no
you
issues,
still
हाँ।
have
नहीं
questions,
नहीं,
sir, at the end we
we are
can.
going to take this ना, हाँ।
Yeah, yes,
ओके,
we are going
तो
to take this in our
गिरीश जी आप
presentation,
थोड़ा
so
देर
that will
थोड़ा
be
इंतज़ार कीजिए, आपका क्वेश्चन ले लीजिएगा।
yeah.
रियाज मलिक साहब आपके भी जो क्वेश्चन है वो थोड़े से पुटअप कर सकते हैं। पवन अग्रवाल साहब का क्वेश्चन है, डीजी विल रन ऑन 30% ऑफ इट्स कैपेसिटी और बेस्ड ऑन
Yeah.
पावर लोड ऑन एट एनी पर्टिकुलर टाइम,
Yeah, it will run on its 30% capacity, sir. It will run on its 30% capacity.
और वी कैन
Imagine someone imagine someone buying a 100 kVA DG. he is definitely having a critical, when I say critical load, the load which has to run even when there is power cut. So if somebody is buying a 100 kVA DG, for sure he has 80 kilowatt of load at least. That's why he went for a 100 kVA DG. So your question, sir, yes, when the DG is going to operate, it will operate at 30 percentage of its capacity.
ओके, चलिए। राकेश जगदाले जी का क्वेश्चन है, विल इट वर्क फॉर स्मॉल डीजीज लाइक 3 किलोवाट और 5 किलोवाट प्रोजेक्ट?
Interesting. Um, Theoretically, this concept works for any size of DG. I mean, we have installed it in smaller showrooms to small houses to small cabins in deserts. So this concept can work perfectly with any capacity of DG. Yes.
ओके, बट द सेम राकेश जी, द क्वेश्चन कम्स कि व्हाट इज़ द कॉस्ट एंड व्हाट इज़ द पे बैक? ओके, तो यहाँ
Yeah.
पे मेरा ये एक सजेशन रहेगा कि भाई मुर्गी से ज़्यादा अगर मसाले की कीमत हो, आप जाइएगा मत। देन द क्वेश्चन कम सर, कि व्हाट इज़ द वाइबल साइज वी शुड लुक फॉर? 15 किलोवाट, 10 किलोवाट, 25, और व्हाट इज़ द
Yeah.
कंडीशन वी शुड गो ऑप्ट फॉर दिस डीजीपीवी सिंक?
I mean, these questions makes me happy because that means that the first half of the session was well understood. But the second half of the session again has answers to all these questions. So
ओके सर, वी विल वेट
as
फॉर
we
दैट।
continue progressing in our presentation, you will get answers to all
नो
this.
इशू सर। है पवन अग्रवाल सर का वन मोर क्वेश्चन, एनी कैपेसिटी ऑफ इन्वर्टर कैन बी यूज्ड विद दिस डीजी कैपेसिटी डीजी?
Yes, the common answer or the general answer is yes, but there are conditions which again will be explained in the second half.
ओके, एमाद टेक, हाँ सर, प्लीज टेल
Yeah.
अबाउट द सिस्टम इन स्मॉलर इन्वर्टर वेयर जीरो एक्सपोर्ट
Uh-huh.
device built in. How to do how to do the sync with our normal battery inverter? Okay,
Okay.
instead of DG, uh, they are using zero export.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
zero export means it's not going to the grid, and now they want to get the reference current from the normal battery. Is it
Yeah,
possible?
right. Yes. Yeah, it is possible, sir. This is possible, but I will need a little bit more information on your plant. You can write to me, and I will take it up separately. But this is possible. There is a way to do it. You can
Okay.
still synchronize DG to the plant and make it more efficient. Yes.
Do we need a data sheet for of DG set to do this?
No, not required. Not required. As long as if it's a three-phase system, the DG has to be three-phase naturally. You cannot give a reference of single phase to a three-phase inverter. So that's something which is to be known. And the voltage of the DG has to be the same voltage range as the inverter. So other than that, we don't need a data sheet. I know why this question because the DG in customers' places are installed 5 years, 10 years ago, and you go there and ask for details about the DG, they will not have it. So yes, we don't need the data sheet really.
Okay, sir. Next question, Samson Pare ji ka. DG should not be more than 20 years. You means 15 years, is it okay?
Okay. The question cannot be answered directly, sir. What was the name of the person who asked this
Samson Pare.
question? Samsung Pare. Okay. So, let's say even if it was a 20-year-old DG, I have seen Volvo DGs which were made by Volvo, which were 20, 25 years old, which still has a very good efficiency. When I say efficiency, it's a 100 kVA DG, which I have seen, and it was almost 20 to 25 years old. And when you start a 1 kilowatt of load, the DG will consume diesel only for that amount. It will not unnecessarily run for too much capacity and just supply for 1 kilowatt. No, because I think it has something to do with the alternator, the gears, and all those things. So it really depends on the quality of the DG and not the number of years. So there can still be a DG which is 20-year plus and be very efficient, but there can also be a DG which is only 10 years old, but maybe consuming just take for example a motorbike or a car. A good, very good car, even if it gets older, it will still consume better fuel. But even a new car, when it is not maintained well, can consume more fuel even if you are driving at economy speed. So the years has nothing to do with it, sir. It is actually the quality of the DG that has something to do with.
जी सैमसन पारे जी, इसका मोटा मोटा मतलब ये निकलता है कि भाई और ये यहाँ सब मैकेनिकल पार्ट्स है, यहाँ पे सब पिस्टन रॉड, इंजन, गियर ऑयल है, इंजन ऑयल, ये सब भी रहता है। तो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स हाउ वेल द डीजी इज़ मेंटेन्ड एंड उसका ओवरऑल खर्चा कितना आ रहा है चलाने का। अगर वो अगर सही में अच्छी तरह मेंटेन्ड है, देन यू कैन थिंक ऑफ गोइंग फॉर डी जी पी वी सिंक। एम आई राइट सर?
Yes, yes, sir. And this information you can easily get it from the DG ledger, which has been maintained by an electrical supervisor inside the campus. If you just go ask that person, he will exactly tell you what happens when the DG is running at half load and what happens if the DG is running at full load. You can just get the mileage. When I use the word mileage more, which is basically how many units the DG is consuming compared to the liters of diesel it consumed. So I just call it as mileage. So it is very easy for us to understand. So you
यस
can ask
यस
him
सर।
how much was the mileage at 50% load and how much was the mileage at 100% load. So he will simply tell you.
कितना देती है? हम सब
Yeah.
वी ऑल ऑलवेज आस्क एनी व्हीकल कितना देती है 10
Yeah, how
किलोमीटर्स,
much?
20 किलोमीटर्स है, 50 किलोमीटर्स एवरेज
Exactly.
है। तो
Exactly.
इट्स द माइलेज। प्रशांत शाह
Yeah.
का क्वेश्चन है, प्रशांत शाह सर का, इट इजेंट ऑपरेटिंग ऑन ऑफ ग्रिड सिस्टम। ऑफ ग्रिड सिस्टम
Um,
में किस लिए ज़रूरत है? वहाँ तो सीधा सीधा डी, या तो ग्रिड है ही नहीं, तो यहाँ पे सिंक करने की बात ही नहीं है। और वी कैन जस्ट ट्वीक द क्वेश्चन, कैन वी थिंक ऑफ सच सिस्टम्स फॉर ऑफ ग्रिड एप्लीकेशन ऑल्सो?
yes, yes. This is surprisingly, or it's a very nice question actually, because
हम्म।
most of the time PVDG sync is connected to off-grid installations. Off-grid installations are the ones which employ PVDG sync most of the time. And yes, in on-grid systems, like we are discussing, it is also done during power cuts. But yeah, it can be employed in both on-grid and off-grid.
यस देवेंद्र पवन जी, थैंक यू। हाँ, देवेंद्र काटलकर, हाँ खाटलकर, हाँ, our plant, our solar plant is 300 kilowatt, but the DG available is 200 kilowatt
Hmm.
at site.
Yes. Okay, so to answer this question, let me just move on to my next slide because
ओके,
most of the questions were
अच्छा,
related to this
चलो तो फ्रेंड्स अब हम एक
slide.
काम करते हैं, थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे ब्रेक लेते हैं। अभी हम सर के साथ बाकी का जो प्रेजेंटेशन है वो समझ लेते हैं। मैं एक्सपेक्ट करता हूँ आपको यहाँ तक तो पूरा समझ आ ही गया होगा। मैं एक बार चाहूँगा कि भाई आप सब हमें एक बार फिर से क्लियर कर दें कि भाई यस, टिल दिस टाइम वी आर क्लियर, ऑल क्लियर लिख दें तो सो दैट वी कैन प्रोसीड विद द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड्स। एक बार फिर से लिख दीजिए
Yeah,
कि भाई ऑल क्लियर, सो दैट वी कैन प्रोसीड। किलर एजे, वेलकम बैक, आप आए। यस, क्लियर टिल नाउ, पवन सर ने एकदम क्लियर लिख दिया है। ओवर टू यू सर।
good to know. Okay, so there were questions on this. I will just put those questions the other way around. So what should be the capacity of the DG when compared to the solar plant installed? So now we will not talk about, when I say solar capacity, I'm going to go talk about the inverter capacity, not the DC capacity. So the inverter capacity in a solar plant should always be less than the DG capacity, which is inside the campus, if we are thinking of DG synchronization. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about the DG, right? So if we are thinking of a DG synchronization, the inverter capacity should be lower than the DG capacity. And I'm going to tell you why. Imagine a situation where the inverter capacity is more. We had a customer in Bangladesh and he has 4 megawatt of solar plant. He has 4 megawatt of solar plant. On AC side, it was around 3.2, 3.3 megawatt. DC was 4 megawatt, and he had also many DGs. So his question to me was, can I run 1 megawatt of DG? Can I run 1 megawatt of DG and thereby fool the inverter, telling there is grid, and operate all the 4 megawatt? He was thinking right. I wouldn't say no, but imagine a situation if this is happening, a 4 megawatt of load is happening, and solar is pumping to all the loads along with a 1 megawatt DG. And all of a sudden, the cloud decides to come between the sun and the solar panel. So this solar generation goes down drastically to 2 megawatt, let's say. Then the 2 megawatt of remaining load is going to fall on the DG. The DG will get overloaded and it will turn off instantly. The next second, the DG will just turn off because there's a MCCB sitting there. There is a system sitting there which will shut down the DG if there is an overload condition. So in order for this condition not to happen, you should always make sure the DG is bigger than the AC capacity of the solar plant. Okay, saying that, I also have a very interesting thing to say. You can actually do a PV-DG sync without employing a PV-DG sync device. This is something which is very interesting, right? I mean, if you are confused or doubtful, I can explain how. But there should be a thumb rule here. Imagine there is a DG of 100 kVA, and if the load is 50, 60 kilowatt, and in this case, if your solar plant is only 25 kilowatt on the AC side, you can actually sync it without a DG synchronization because the load is always going to be 50 or 60 kilowatt, and the DG is going to take care of 30 kilowatt of load at least, and the solar plant is going to supply 20 to 25 kilowatt. So imagine if this math is okay, you can also put it on a bigger scale. Like if the DG is 1 megawatt, if the load is 500 to 600 kilowatt, and if you have a 300 kilowatt plant sitting in the campus, you definitely don't need a synchronizing device. You can simply synchronize it. When I say simply synchronize it, just give the reference voltage, pull the inverter, and the inverter will start working. And there will be no condition where the inverter will actually push power into the DG. So this can be done without DG synchronizing device. If you have a plant which has this mathematics correct, then you can actually sync it without a DG synchronizing device. That's possible. But there is also another interesting question which I always get. Can I use a zero export for DG sync? Yeah, why not, right? Why not? It also does the same thing. It will not allow the inverter to push power into the DG. So again, giving a situation where there is a 100 kVA DG, a 100 kilowatt of solar plant, and load is about 80 kilowatt, let's say. And if you employ a zero export device on the DG side, what happens here is it will work fine. It will not, the zero export device always has a small loss. I mean, up to a 2% of export will still happen. And if the loads are not the same in all three phases, the export can still happen. So that's one reason why you cannot employ a zero export device on DG synchronization. The second is the inverter will take care of most of the loads and there will be no load left for the DG. So the DG will be just running on a dry run, which is also not good for the DG. If you just run a DG on a dry run, by dry run, I mean there is no load on the DG or there is very minimal load on the DG and then the DG is running. This is going to create a mess in the system and DG is going to have a lot of maintenance. It's like driving your car for 100 kilometers on first gear and at 10 kilometer speed. Imagine what will happen to the engine. So that's exactly what is going to happen in the DG if it is going to run on a dry run. So zero export device for DG sync. I know some people employed it and they had issues with their DG. So please don't do that. This is the end of the session. I just didn't want to leave it as questions. I just wanted to tell as comments. So please let us know your comments and we'll be answering you.
तो फ्रेंड्स, पहली बात तो आप यहाँ से शिवा सर का ईमेल एड्रेस ले सकते हैं. इट्स sivakumaran@gmail.com. और ये उनका व्हाट्सएप नंबर है, ये इंटरनेशनल नंबर है ऑस्ट्रेलिया का, +64122804600. ये व्हाट्सएप नंबर है. आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई टाइम का ज़रा ख्याल रखिएगा. कभी भी उठते सुट्टे टाइम पे फ़ोन मत मतलब कि व्हाट्सअप मत कीजिएगा. इंडिया से वो 6 घंटा आगे चल रहे हैं इंडियन टाइम से. अभी हम लोग सुबह के 11 बजे हुए हैं, तो मतलब कि उधर कुछ 2 बज रहे होंगे. एम आई राइट सर? व्हाट्स द टाइम
The
इन
time
ऑस्ट्रेलिया?
the time in Australia is actually 4.5 ahead of India, so it's 4.5 hours.
ओके,
Three
फोर
three
एट
thirty now.
3:30.
3:30.
हाँ,
Yeah.
इन द आफ्टरनून टाइम. ओके, सो
Yeah.
ये उनका ईमेल एड्रेस है और ये उनका फ़ोन नंबर है. आप इनसे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. सर, यू कैन क्लोज द प्रेजेंटेशन, वी कैन मूव टू द क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन. फ्रेंड्स, अब हम फ्रैंकली अब हम रैपिड राउंड क्वेश्चन पे पहुंचेंगे. तो आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि भाई आप अपना क्वेश्चन फटाफट फटाफट डालिए, एंड वी विल क्लियर ऑल द वी विल ट्राई टू क्लियर ऑल द क्वेश्चंस. चलिए, ठीक है. हाँ,
Yeah.
वी आर बैक. हाँ, और जो हमारे फ्रेंड्स फ्रेंड्स आगे बढ़ने से पहले एक और बार फिर से बोलूँगा कि भाई आप सबको बता दूं कि भाई हम लोगों का ट्रेनिंग सेशन जो 21 तारीख से स्टार्ट हो रहा है, और उसमें शिवा सर भी रहेंगे, एंड और भी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं. मतलब कि हर टॉपिक के अलग अलग डोमेन के हर डोमेन के एक्सपर्ट्स वहाँ पे हमारे आते हैं, और वो आपको ये पूरा चीज़ सिखाते हैं कि भाई क्या होता है, कैसे होता है. क्या है कि भाई व्हाट आई कैन से इज़ दैट आई एम नॉट ए रजनीकांत दैट आई कैन टीच यू एवरी टॉपिक. है सो ईच टॉपिक विथ द डोमेन एक्सपर्ट वो आएंगे, एंड वो आपको वो चीज़ सिखाएंगे. तो आप में से जो लोग भी अपना करियर इस इंडस्ट्री में बनाना चाहते हैं, समझना चाहते हैं, वो हमारे इस ट्रेनिंग सेशन का फ़ायदा ज़रूर उठाएं. इनफैक्ट मैं तो ये रिकमेंड करूँगा कि भाई आप में से कई लोगों को अच्छे काम, अच्छे स्टाफ की ज़रूरत होती है, तो दे कैन send their staff also. They can be a good asset for you if you give proper training. Okay. रियाज मलिक साहब, आपका काइंडली टेक माय अर्लियर क्वेश्चन. रियाज सर, हम आपके हाँ पीछे हमने जहाँ तक हमने रोका था, पवन सर का ओके थैंक यू आ गया था. उसके बाद देवेंद्र खाटानीकर का भी आ गया था. वी स्टार्ट विद द सेम क्वेश्चन अगेन. देवेंद्र जी का क्वेश्चन था, सर द क्वेश्चन इज आवर सोलर प्लांट कैपेसिटी इज 300 किलोवाट बट द डीजी कैपेसिटी इज 250 kVA.
Yeah.
व्हाट कैन बी डन?
Yeah. So again, we would really like to know the AC capacity of the plant. And if the AC capacity of the plant is less than the DG capacity, the DG should always be a little more than the AC capacity of the plant. Let's say 20, at least 25% more, just to be safer on the DG side. And if that's the case, yes, you can employ DG sync in your plant.
ओके, रियाज मलिक साहब का क्वेश्चन लेते हैं. दीज डेज वी हैव बिल्ट इन जनरेशन पोर्ट्स इन हाइब्रिड इन्वर्टर्स. डज
Mhm.
दिस टेक्नोलॉजी रिप्लेसेस द सिंक डिवाइस?
Not really, I would say, because DG synchronization is more employed in places where there are DGs which are running all the time and there is a lot of diesel consumption. So in order to reduce the diesel consumption is where you just pair where you will be pairing the PV and the DG together so that the diesel consumption is reduced. In such cases, you do it, but it cannot still be a very big replacement for hybrid systems because they are employed in certain areas for a different reason. So this is not a replacement for the hybrid systems, I would say.
ओके, नहीं नहीं, अच्छा चलो, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पवन अग्रवाल साहब का. इट्स ऑफ द सेम क्वेश्चन. द सोलर प्लांट इज ऑफ 100 kVA किलोवाट
Mhm.
एंड द इन्वर्टर इज 40 kVA. विद
Okay.
देन विल इट वर्क और वाइस वर्सा?
The vice versa will not work. I mean, if the DG was 40 kVA and the solar plant is 100, then it's not going to work
नहीं
because
नहीं,
the
द सोलर
DG.
प्लांट इज 100, इन्वर्टर इज 40. पवन सर,
हाँ,
इसमें डीजी किधर गया? डीजी कितने किलोवाट केवी का है?
I think he by 100 he meant DG only.
नहीं, इन्वर्टर, सोलर प्लांट इज 100 किलोवाट, इन्वर्टर इज 40, then sir, basically you just tell me the what should be the configuration: solar, DG, and inverter. What is the best configuration?
Sir, here the best there is no best configuration.
Or the
There is a
basic?
best configuration where you don't need a DG sync device is when the load is half the DG capacity and solar is half the load capacity. So you can always take this as a thumb rule. If the DG is 100 kVA and if your minimum load on DG is 50 kVA, then the solar plant can be 25 kVA and you don't need a DG sync device. You can directly synchronize it. You don't even need this device. You can just synchronize it. But on the
Okay.
other hand, if you need where you are employing the device, there is only one condition where the DG should always be bigger than the solar AC capacity. That's all.
Okay, DG should be bigger than the solar AC capacity. This is
AC capacity.
okay. And what about the inverter capacity?
Yeah, when I said solar AC capacity, that's the inverter capacity.
Okay,
So
that
the
means
DG
100.
capacity should be always bigger than the inverter capacity.
So in the, here what we can say is 100 kilowatt solar plant. If the solar plant is 100 kilowatt, by default the DG should be 150 and above.
It can be 125 and above,
हाँ हाँ, no issues.
25%.
Not less than
Yeah,
inverter capacity.
not less than the inverter capacity. Correct. Yes.
Okay, चलिए, ठीक है। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं। किलर एजे, ही इज़ बैक, ही इज़ वन ऑफ द, मतलब कि बहुत अच्छा लगता है किलर एजे। एंड AKM भी हमारे बहुत अच्छे पुराने दोस्त हैं। तो किलर एजे, डोंट यू थिंक दैट नॉट यूजिंग PV to isn't potential waste of investment? DG is okay as we purchase diesel only when needed. किलर एज है यहाँ पे। कॉन्सेप्ट पहली बात तो समझना होगा आपको कि भाई ये DG PV सिंक हम लोग कर किस ले रहे हैं। और फर्स्ट 4 जो स्लाइड्स सर ने हमको दिखाई थी, वाई DG PV सिंक। अब इफ़ यू कैन, अगर आप ये प्रेजेंटेशन, चूँकि आप थोड़ा सा लेट ज्वाइन हुए, आप अगर ये वाई DG एंड वेयर DG PV सिंक इज़ रिक्वायर्ड, अगर आप ये समझ जाएंगे तो आपका ये क्वेश्चन वहीं के वही क्लियर हो जाएगा। चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं। किलर एज, I don't think less PV capacity than DG is economical for most efficient. We can always employ BESS or for bad weather. BESS के लिए किलर एज मैं आपको बता दूं कि वी आर हैविंग वन मोर सेशन। हाँ सर, ये ज़रा हम, हाँ, लेट्स ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड ये BESS एंड BESS एंड DG, विच इज़
Yeah,
बेस्ट?
yeah.
विच इज़ बेस्ट?
No, I would definitely vote for battery energy storage solutions, but but um, they they both have their set of customers. Imagine there is already a customer who is having a 1 megawatt DG and you have installed a 800 kilowatt of solar plant. Why would a customer have a 1 megawatt DG, sir? A customer has a 1 megawatt DG because his critical load, that is during power cut, his load is at least 800 kilowatt. That's why he has purchased a 1 megawatt DG in the first place. So when he has already done it, synchronizing the DG with the solar plant will actually save this customer more on his diesel consumption. So that's a different set of customer. He is going to have support from DG synchronization. But BESS solutions, battery energy storage solutions, are for a different set of customers who are trying to go for a new system. Let's say we had a 400 kilowatt customer who had some critical loads and he has high energy consumption. So he went for BESS solutions to satisfy his loads on the high demand hours. So that's something to do with the battery energy storage. Or if you need an uninterrupted power supply, and if the system is new, yes, definitely battery energy storage is something which I will vote for. But DG PV sync is for a existing customer who already has a DG sitting in his campus.
ओके सर, ओके। तो क्लियर है जी, यहाँ पे अपने को ये क्लियर हो जाता है कि भाई अगर मेरे पास ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग कस्टमर है जिसके पास ऑलरेडी डीजी है, तो हम वहाँ पे ये डीजी पीवी सिंक लगाएंगे। और अगर किसी के पास कोई नया सेटअप लगा रहा है तो डेफिनेटली वो बी ई एस एस लगाएंगे। अब वो बी ई एस एस क्या होता है, कैसे साइजिंग करनी होगी, उसके ऊपर भी मैं बता देता हूँ। शिवा सर इज़ हैविंग गुड एक्सपीरियंस ऑन बी ई एस एस ऑल्सो। He has done projects from for CNI customers as well as megawatt customers. Sir, can you throw some light on the work done on BESS or by you?
Yeah, sure. BESS, Battery Energy Storage Solutions. When we talk about this, we always think of, oh, when there is a power cut, let me just have a battery and then it is going to support my loads when there is power cut. This is just for smaller systems. In developed countries, what happens is, in order to make the grid very stable, people install bigger megawatt solar plants with big batteries. Imagine those 10 megawatt hour, 20 megawatt hour big batteries are being installed because the solar plant generates power, pushes it into the battery, and the battery is standing there waiting for the grid to have any stabilizing issues. So if the grid stability is disturbed, then the battery can push power into the grid and stabilize it, or it can even draw power from the grid and stabilize it. Always the frequency of the grid has to be maintained at 50. So if the demand is more, then the battery will push power, and if the demand is less, then the battery will take power from the grid and stabilize the grid. So this is why bigger megawatt scale BESS solutions are being installed mostly across Europe. We also have a lot of installations happening here in South Australia. So that's how BESS is employed in bigger scale. In smaller
Okay,
scale, it just takes care of load shedding.
okay, okay. No issues, sir. Sir, next question is from Rakesh Jagdale. Can we add wind with DG sync?
Yeah, sure. We can do that. We can of course do that. Yes, it's possible.
अमित जायसवाल सर का क्वेश्चन है, सर इज देयर एनी टेक्निकल फॉर्मूला स्लाइड for without any component, for without any component,
Hmm.
okay, any SLD type? अमित जायसवाल जी, आप डायरेक्टली सर को ईमेल कर दीजिएगा, व्हाट ही विल शेयर द रिक्वायर्ड इन्फॉर्मेशन। ओके, अमित जायसवाल सर का एक और क्वेश्चन है। अच्छा, वसीम जी का है, एक्सलेंट एंड इंफॉर्मेटिव सेशन सर, थैंक यू। देवेंद्र खाटन जी का, ओके थैंक्स सर। अमित जायसवाल, विच कंपनी इज सेलिंग द डीजी सेट, selling the DG set synchronization component of any known good brand?
Yeah, I have one brand which I can actually talk of. There is, if you know, this no, there nowadays there are many brands, but there used to be a Danish brand which sells PVDG synchronizing device because they were generally synchronizing DG to DG. So places where there are many DGs, DGs are synchronized to run at a synchronized pattern. So this company also sells the PVDG component. I can just verify the name and let you know. I don't want to give a wrong name. So
Okay, no issue,
yeah.
sir. मतलब कि the question, one more question comes that these days new these inverters, are they coming with the DG sync feature, or you have to just ask them where we want this feature also?
Now, as far as I know, there is no inverter company which builds its inverters with DG syncing feature. So it's always a third-party device.
Okay, it's always a third party device. Okay, no
Yeah.
issues. Kunal Patil sir ka, sir, hello sir, how can connect three numbers of DG PV sync is possible one time? Solar is 1700 kilowatt, DG is 750 kVA. What happens if the power of PV DG is more than the required capacity?
Um,
First
I
question
am not
is
very
how can we connect DGPV first question is, how can we connect three numbers of DGPV sync? Is it possible at one time?
Yeah, which means there are three DGs in the campus, and you want to connect the PV DG sync for three DGs and one solar plant. If that is your question, sir, yes, it is possible, but you first have to synchronize all the three DGs. So there can be a customer who has three different DGs because when there is power cut, he will turn on whichever DG is required. In that case, you have to first synchronize all the three DGs, then you synchronize the PV with the DG. So it is possible.
Okay, चलिए ठीक है. Next question is, solar capacity is 1700 kilowatt peak and the DG
Okay.
is 750 kVA.
Okay. Okay, because in this case, you are talking about a bigger solar plant and a smaller DG. It is not possible, but the possibility is part of the solar plant. Even though the solar plant is 1700 kVA and DG is only 750, so maybe you can just take out 600 kilowatt of inverters and synchronize it with the DG because it naturally will be a string inverter setup. So you just pull out 600 kilowatt of AC capacity of inverters and synchronize with the DC. But
Okay,
not the entire plant can be
but the rule
synchronized.
remains the same that the system capacity, AC capacity, should be less than the DG capacity.
Exactly. Yes.
ओके, तो वहाँ पे अगर चार पांच, इफ देर आर फोर फाइव इन्वर्टर्स, स्ट्रिंग इन्वर्टर्स, यू कैन सिंक टू थ्री इन्वर्टर्स विद द सिस्टम.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
ओके.
Yeah.
सक्षम क्रॉप्स, कॉप्स, सक्षम क्रॉप्स का, व्हेन वी थिंक ऑफ डीजी सिंक, हाई व्हेन वी थिंक ऑफ डीजी सिंक, डीजी वन एंड डीजी टू. आपका क्वेश्चन बड़े टुकड़ों टुकड़ों में आ रहा है. Parameters of DG1, DG2, what kind of parameters need to be matched? DG1, DG2,
So
what kind of
yeah,
parameters?
that's no, that's something you might have to talk with the DG guys. But I know the parameters. Yes, the speed of the DG should remain the same. They should run in the same set frequency to give out the said voltage and everything. But you're talking about DG to DG, so I think that's a separate topic overall.
DG to DG. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
For synchronization, which parameter needs to be taken? Frequency, voltage, please sequence, phase sequence, and question mark.
Again, if this is something to do with DG-DG synchronization, of course, all these parameters should be taken care of. But if it is DG and PV synchronization, the power output of the DG is the only parameter which we are interested in. I mean, that's the only parameter of interest when it comes to DG and PV synchronization.
Okay, no issues, sir. Oh, thank you, Killer AJ. Thanks for the explanation. So we have USV cases of DG sync. कुछ समझ नहीं आया, चलो ठीक है. किलर एजे, हाँ. अमित जायसवाल जी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर योर इन्फॉर्मेटिव सेशन. मच नीडेड ट्रेनिंग. आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू इंक्रीज दिस इन द प्रैक्टिकल सेशन इन द हाइब्रिड ट्रेनिंग. अमित जायसवाल साहब, ये वाला जो सेशन है, ये हम प्रैक्टिकल में तो नहीं कर पाएंगे, क्योंकि ये जो फैसिलिटी हम लोग इस बार कवर कर रहे हैं, दैट इज़ इन जर्मनी के कैंपस पीडीपीयू में, दैट इज़ इन गांधीनगर. तो वहाँ पे हम आपको वहाँ की फैसिलिटी आपको बता देते हैं. वहाँ पे आपको ऑन ग्रिड, ऑफ ग्रिड, हाइब्रिड, ये तीन तो रहेंगे ही रहेंगे. फिर उसका शैडो एनालिसिस, शैडो इफ़ेक्ट, सीरीज़ पैरेलल, मिसमैच, हाँ, अर्थ रेजिस्टेंस टेस्ट, हाँ, आईवी कर्व, ये सब तो रहेगा ही रहेगा. फिर उसके बाद आपका रहेगा एक दिन आपका 400 मेगावाट का मॉड्यूल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेटअप, वो हम आपको दिखाएंगे. फिर ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन दिखाएंगे. देन आपको फिर ईवी चार्जिंग स्टेशंस दिखाएंगे, ईवी चार्जिंग और बाकी जो अपने सोलर के प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं, सोलर स्ट्रीट लाइट, होम लाइटिंग, वाटर कुकर, हाँ, ये तमाम चीज़ें दिखाएंगे. प्लस 1 मेगावाट का सेटअप भी हम आपको वहीं पे दिखाएंगे. तो ये जो डी जी पी वी सिंक है, दिस इज़ ए कॉन्सेप्ट जो हम आपको यहाँ पे बताएंगे। इनफैक्ट एक BESS का भी कॉन्सेप्ट होता है जिसके ऊपर सर ने बहुत तगड़ा काम किया हुआ है। डू यू नीड ए सेशन विथ शिवा सर ऑन BESS? ज़रा फटाफट लिखिए आप सब जितने भी हैं हमारे दोस्त लोग अभी, बताइए तो देन वी विल प्लान फॉर ए सेशन विथ शिवा सर ऑन BESS ऑल्सो। आपका क्वेश्चंस आपके फटाफट कमेंट्स डालेंगे। देखिए जितना ज़्यादा डिमांड करेंगे, वॉट एवर वी डू इज़ एज पर योर डिमांड। इफ़ यू डिमांड दिस सब्जेक्ट दिस टॉपिक देन वी विल ट्राई टू bring more and more experts. In fact, these topics all मतलब कि ऑल आर कवर्ड इन और ट्रेनिंग सेशंस। तो मैं तो यही चाहूँगा कि भाई जो लोग भी प्रॉपरली एक सीक्वेंस में विथ इंटरेक्शन विथ शिवा सर करना चाहते हैं तो देन दे शुड ऑप्ट फॉर आवर ट्रेनिंग सेशंस दैट विच इज स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम 21st. Richard Sequeira, suppose the distance of the DG and solar inverter is more than 100 meters. Is there any system where we can do it wirelessly or wirelessly through internet?
Yeah, Mr. Richard, yes, it is possible. But now what happens is we are talking about not running a cable and we are going to rely on wireless signal. So you can always connect this smart meter to a wireless device and push the signal to the internet to a cloud and then take it back in the synchronizing device. But all this requires some time. And let's say if the data has come to the device in about 1 to 2 minutes time, that 1 to 2 minute is enough for the inverter to push its power into the DG and burn the DG. So you always have to have a fallback protection in the device saying if the data has not reached, then it will turn off the inverter. But as a simple answer, this is possible and we have done this. Yes. You can wirelessly transmit the signals from the energy meter to the PV syncing device. Yeah. But it
Honey,
has its
because
own
because
challenges.
he's saying that you said that Cat 6 cable more than 100 meters,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
possible. Then is there any other cable instead of wireless?
You can actually use a optical cable or you can use a SFTP, shielded foil twisted pair Cat 6 cable, which is good. I mean, it can actually take the data a little longer, or in between, you can employ a small switch, the internet switch, so that it just boosts the data. So in middle, you have to employ a switch and then boost the data.
ओके ओके ओके, नो इश्यूज़ नो इश्यूज़। चलिए ठीक है। तो फ्रेंड्स एक्सपेक्ट करता हूँ कि भाई आप सबको जो आज का जो सेशन है वो ज़रूर अच्छा लगा होगा। हाँ, और शिवा सर एज वी सेड कि भाई द वी विल टेक द सेशंस ऑन द डिमांड ऑफ आवर viewers because they have since you are having good command on BESS also, so they are also saying this, yes we want session on BESS with charging and discharging. Yes, need
Sure.
session on BESS. Yes, 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 please session on BESS. Richard, yes, 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 yes. So sir, we want a session for BESS also, sir.
Sure. We will do it, sir. Yeah, we
Thank
can
you,
do
sir.
that.
Thank you. Killer AJ, so DG sync only for reducing diesel consumption. Yes, 110%. किलर एजे होता है ऐसा है कि मतलब कि आपके उधर वो है डीजी ऑलरेडी लगा हुआ है, तो आप ये डीजी पीवी सिंक लगा के आप अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट तो फुलफ़िल कर रहे हैं, तो और उसके साथ साथ अपना डीजल का रिक्वायरमेंट जो कंजम्पशन है उसे भी कम कर रहे हैं। तो ये डीजी पीवी सिंक का फ़ायदा यही होता है। तो फ्रेंड्स एक्सपेक्ट करता हूँ कि भाई अगेन ख़त्म करने से पहले बोलूँगा कि भाई ट्रेनिंग का फ़ायदा ज़रूर है। 21st को हम लोगों का ट्रेनिंग स्टार्ट हो रहा है। आई गॉट माई सोलर सब्सिडी एप्स APS, वेरी गुड, कॉन्ग्रेट्स सर। तो शिवा सर है
Thank
वंस
you, sir.
अगेन थैंक यू फ्रॉम माई साइड एंड फ्रॉम द व्यूअर्स साइड ऑल्सो है कि
Thank you so much.
भाई द सेशन वॉज वेरी गुड है। NYC सेशन नाइस सेशन है, ही एक्सप्लेन्स वेरी वेल Huh? Very good session, sir. Very good session. So
Thank
we
you.
before ending the session, we will request you to take session on BES also for domestic
Sure,
and CNI
sure.
customers. See you
Yeah.
soon, sir. Have a good day. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Say you
Thank
don't
you. Bye.
just a minute.